I just like how you said thousands.
There's thousands of ideas, and then a sound effect behind it.
Oh no, not that
one. Millions.
There we go.
That's it right there.
Say million?
Millions of ideas. No, but there really is. There's tons of business ideas.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's the sky's the limit. So we kind of talked in yesterday's episode, which will get uploaded tonight. We talked about how I totally just lost my train of thought there. So yeah, go for it.
Well, but so yesterday we talked about partnerships, but then we also talked about how just simple things that can be businesses.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what we were going to base our episode around today, right? Is I don't know how many we'll get to.
Yeah.
But just throwing out there different ideas and talking about them of ways that, say somebody's at home right now, maybe they're, with inflation or whatever, they're struggling a little bit and wondering, how can I earn some extra cash?
Yeah.
And, and so there's ways, and it's cool to see on the internet because there's so many ways.
So many.
Like as you're scrolling through Instagram or YouTube or whatever, there's so many cool ways that people get creative and figure out ways to start businesses and make money. So it's way cool. And that's kind of the epitome of the cash calf philosophy.
Yeah.
Is finding other ways to make little side hustles.
Our 10-year-old came home from school the other day. I guess he's 11. I'm a terrible parent. I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know when their birthdays are and stuff. It's bad. I need to ask my wife sometimes.
He's 11. I'm sorry, Lincoln. You're 11. He came home from school and he's like, I made $100 on Pokemon cards today. I was like, you what? Like is that even okay? Are you able to do that? Like, is that allowed? He's like, no, but Dad, like they're all people who wanted the cards. They wanted them, and I asked a fair price, and I was like, no, I'm not like, this is amazing.
That's
cool. It's cool. I just want to make sure that you're allowed to do that at school. And he's like, no, I don't know. No one said anything to me.
Yeah.
Like the kid made $100 at school on Pokemon cards.
Well, it's cool that he recognized too that he's doing it in an honest, ethical way. Like, hey, no, like they wanted them, and like that's way cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to see. So we'll see what happens to the other two. But
when you were talking about that, one thing that my boys one time were out, it's kind of a family joke because they were out at my parents' house and they live like out in the middle of the boonies, on a farm. And they, my mom had a garden and they were out helping them pick peas. It was my two boys and then their two cousins that are similar age. Well, they picked a bunch of peas and they had a wise idea that they were going to sell the peas by the side of the road. And so they made a sign and everything. And this is on a road where there's like maybe 3 people go by a day, And so, so I pull up and they have this sign that says $1 a pea. And so they were selling a pea pod
for $1.
For $1. And they actually like some of the missionaries had stopped by and given them like $5.
That's awesome.
And they're like all excited about this business idea, and I'm like, that's not business. That's, that's stealing from people essentially, but they were doing it out of genuinely thinking that they were giving people a good deal, so it was hilarious. Well, so even to this day, like we were talking about business ideas the other day and MJ's like, well, I still got my pea business.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, they're gourmet, they're homegrown, grandma's homegrown peas.
Yeah. Well, and they were like pitching. Yeah. It wasn't like, there was some people were being like, oh, they're cute. And so we'll give them. And even some of the neighbors stopped and I think they ended up making there was 4 of them and they split the money up. I think they got $7 or $8 each. That's awesome. So they, people were just, but they were genuinely pitching it, and so it's been good. And with that, I think both of those ideas, it's important to foster that and be like, sure. Oh yeah, like, that's great.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, do it again, go out and figure out something else to do. But
yeah,
it's fun.
It is. It's cool. So, okay. I don't know why this popped in my head, but glamour shots from Deb on Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh yeah.
As dumb as they make it look, she'd probably make bank.
Oh yeah.
Actually going door to door. Hey, I'm doing pictures. You want to buy? And what are they doing? What's she doing? She's selling.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't think, oh, a saleswoman just came to the door. No, a photographer came to the door. She's a great salesman,
Yeah.
saleswoman.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and
Just thought,
it's cool to see the creativity too, because I see quite a bit of photographers advertise on Facebook.
Yeah.
But there's people that really have a niche market of what they're selling to their, you know what I mean?
yeah. Oh,
And they
yeah.
really are zeroing in on a certain thing and they're successful about
Okay. When they say, no, I don't want any glamour shots. What did she do? Well, would you like a bracelet?
it.
I never thought about this. Dude, she is quite the saleswoman.
Yeah. Good
And-
entrepreneur.
Yeah. And then, I mean, her and Napoleon end up together. So, I mean, she really sold. No, I
She
never
probably supported Napoleon.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
she probably,
wear the vote for Pedro shirt. And
yeah.
no, I just have never even thought about that until it popped in my head here. But she goes up. She's like, hey, do you want some glamour shots? No. All right. Well, do you want a bracelet? No. And then, he offends her and she runs off the porch, but she had a backup.
Mm-hmm.
She was there to really sell.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lessons from Napoleon Dynamite.
That's right. That's right.
But then, all right, here we go. They go to sell that crappy Tupperware
Mm-hmm.
and they fail because they were unethical.
I'm trying to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
He runs over it and it pops. Jeez.
I haven't seen that show for so long.
You got to watch it with your kids.
Uh,
It's so good.
I'm going to go home and watch it now. That's what we're going to do tonight. And
That'd be
we're going to
great.
learn about entrepreneurship in Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
So,
It is interesting where we can pull principles from. So I think you and I go to the same church. And no. So in Come Follow Me,
yeah.
started reading Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I told you I started reading through Genesis. I'm like, this is an entrepreneurial dreamland. You're like looking at how something was created before the next thing. And when he looked at it, he goes, and it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on to the next thing, and it was good. And then I don't remember exactly what the verbiage was, but the very last thing when he like looks at everything and he kind of puts a stamp on it, it was something close to, and it was good, but it was more like, and they were great. Like he'd put everything together very strategically and then put like his final stamp on it. Like, now we're good.
Yeah.
It's just cool. You can pull principles from anywhere.
Yeah. This morning we were talking about, me and David went running, and it's usually part of it is for our physical fitness, but it's a lot mental fitness because we have a lot of good conversation. And we were talking about like the 1%, getting 1% better principle, like there's back to church, but there was a conference talk where they talked about the British cycling team and how they just focused on getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
They went from being a terrible team to being the best in the world by a great margin, I think.
Uh-huh.
And it was just by small and simple things. And, we were talking about that, and even like the creation story, we need to not get so tied up and so judgmental on ourselves that we're not doing everything all at once. I mean, it's small things, and we talk about that with business too, like the bottle cap opener guy, like he's using a Dremel tool in his garage to cut out bottle openers and has no clue what he's doing, and admits that he has no clue what he's doing. And that turns into a $5 million a year business or whatever, How small is that? But it's so important to not get frustrated in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that ties into even what we were going to talk about today is these small little ideas that people really can, you can discount them and be like, well, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Well, you can do that, or you can just get in and start working it.
Yeah.
And every small business started from a small little silly beginning, for the most part, I think.
I was listening to something the other day. It's called Irrationally Rational. Something like that. And he talks about bread makers. You could just get a pan and bake bread in your oven, but someone came out with a bread maker and they actually couldn't sell. Like they were trying so hard to sell them. And finally they hire this different marketing firm and they go, make it a little better and double the price. I'm like, okay. So they do that, but they keep their original model at its price point. They sell almost none of the new big better ones. But because someone have some they had something to compare to, they went, ooh, that one for $500. That's crazy. But now I think I want a bread maker that's $200.
Interesting.
They started selling a ton of them. I mean, you remember
So they made their own market.
they made their own market.
Hmm.
A bread maker, which is an oven,
Mm-hmm.
which we all have.
Mm-hmm.
We could buy a $5 bread pan, but instead we have to buy a whole bread maker. But it has settings.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's interesting too that to see the shoot, what's the word? The fad of that. Because I remember
sure.
growing up,
Yep.
we had one of
we had
those.
one too.
Nobody has them now.
No,
I don't think. I don't
No.
know of anybody. I don't even know where to, you could probably buy it on Amazon. but
probably.
I remember like Walmart or the
Mhm.
department stores had them all over. You had, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's just funny because they made their own market and something very simple. So what they did is they just made a mini oven
Mm-hmm.
and then built a market around it. So what else can we do that's the same thing? You're like, okay, well, I don't know, a car pops into my mind. How can you make a mini car and and
Yeah.
then market that out? There's so many ways. Gary V is a good one to follow
Yeah.
for ideas. He's very much into the tech world, but also too, like, I've heard him say things like go to thrift stores
Mm-hmm.
and buy stuff and then turn around and sell it on eBay. We have a friend, Judd. He found an original 3-point wool blanket, like those
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Hudson Bay
Mhm.
Trading Company blankets. Found an original. Cost him like $30,
Hmm.
which $30 at a thrift store is actually kind of expensive. They
Yeah.
probably knew what they were selling. It's like a $600 blanket.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, I want one to make a capote out of.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah,
Especially
that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can like survive a winter
Hmm.
in that blanket. But let's say he was out there, and he's pretty good at that stuff too. Like
Mhm.
he scours those, and he knows, like he kind of knows, like, hey, well, that's valuable. I think he keeps it all. But if you wanted to turn it into a business,
Sure.
it's great. People are just throwing their stuff away that don't know the value of it. You don't know who it was,
Mm-hmm.
so you go to the thrift store, you buy it, turn around and sell it.
Yeah.
If we knew who it was, we might be able to go back to him and be like, hey, that blanket was worth $600. I'll sell it for you. Do you want, a commission?
Yeah.
But
Well, I love the Gary Vee example because yes, he's big into tech, but then you can find videos of him going to garage sales.
yes,
And that's my favorite one. And because he's like, he's big on if you're complaining about where you're at,
Yeah.
shut up
Yeah.
and go out and do the work. And so he shows people business ideas, kind of like we're talking here. Like he had one where everybody was kind of laughing about it or whatever, but he's like, look, like he looks up on Facebook, okay, somebody's giving away this coffee table for free. He's like, okay, go get the coffee table. So he like goes, rides the subway, gets the coffee table. He's like riding in the subway home with the free coffee table, right? Like takes it home, takes some better pictures of it, so it doesn't look like crap with the crappy dirty house in the background or whatever. It's in his nice living room now, looks like a nice piece of furniture.
Yeah.
Sells it for $100.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
It's $100.
He did one time where, and this was just a recent one that I saw. It probably wasn't a recent video, but he was at some garage sales and he was talking about specialized items. And so he actually did a whole series of videos on mugs and going to garage sales and finding certain mugs.
Yeah.
But this one, the guy's like, well, what's an idea? What's an idea of something I could sell? And he's like, salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, what are you talking about? Well, he gets on eBay, goes in, and there's some certain settings that you can do on eBay. And I actually did this a couple times after I saw it because there's incredible technology that we can use to our benefit to do some of these things. But he went in, he was able to filter it down to the recently sold items within the salt and pepper shaker search.
Yeah.
There's salt and pepper shakers selling for like $500 or whatever,
Wow.
And this guy's like, who's buying $500 salt and pepper shakers? And he's like, salt and pepper shaker collectors. Like, anything that there is, there's
Yeah.
a collector's market for it.
So
And
crazy.
so, you know,
Yeah,
anyway,
we see that in
that's a huge one.
coins. But yeah, we see it in coins, and it kind of makes sense because it's like, well, it's at least silver, so if it loses its value, but nothing's losing its value right now.
Yeah.
You know, if things get really bad, then maybe we won't care so much about salt and pepper shakers, but
Yeah.
they have to get pretty bad. So that's awesome. Salt and pepper shakers.
Well, and I think it's just a switch in mindset, you know, especially if there's something that you really like,
Yeah.
you know, say it's antique rugs or whatever.
Yeah.
If there's something you're really into and you're studying it all the time and everything, that's great. Go out and find ways to find those things, whether it's
Yeah.
estate sales or thrift stores or garage sales, and be able to turn around and flip them on
Yeah.
eBay or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Well, so here's an idea. I was looking at wood when we were building this because I really want to do the epoxy.
Yeah.
You know how they
Yeah,
do kind of
that's
the
so
epoxy
cool.
rivers and stuff. So there's one epoxy tables.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you need wood, and we just didn't have any cool looking wood. So hop online. There's people that they buy wood. So
Mhm.
if you have something cool, they'll appraise it and buy it from you, or you buy it back from them. And there's just 3 or 4 probably big businesses, but I don't know. They make themselves look pretty big online, and then others that don't look big, and they just have an inventory of little pieces of wood.
Mhm.
Like, how does that ever? But there's so much. It's so popular right now to make these epoxy tables. Their market's huge.
Yeah.
You know, it's very niche. Wood for epoxy tables. Like, is that big enough market? Yeah, because it's global.
Or even barnwood furniture
Oh,
or
barnwood, yeah,
barnwood, you know, to planking to go on
Yep.
walls.
yeah,
I mean, it's a, you know, and that's an interesting thought too, because I think maybe a lot of people are like, well, how would I even get into that? Or how would I know where to buy that kind of wood or whatever? Well, look online and see
yeah,
what kind of stuff is desirable. You know, all of this takes a little bit of homework.
Yeah.
But I can think of off the top of my head probably 200 old crappy barnwood buildings off the top of my head right now.
Yep.
So once you know what you're looking for, drive into that person's driveway,
I'm
knock
like,
on the door,
let's go buy one.
knock on the
Yeah.
door and say, hey, I'll clean up your barn,
Yep.
your old crappy barn for nothing if I can have the wood. Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good. You're providing a service, and then you're also going to, you know, sell that wood for a good profit.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did it on the, you know, farming, you know, when I was farming, we had some old sheds that we tore down, and
Yeah.
we kept the wood to use it for crafts and that kind of stuff, you know?
We have a friend who ran out of barns to buy, at least in where he was and in his market. So this is innovation, and this is really cool. Like, this is a good example for people to just see how you can take something and you can tweak it to work.
Mhm.
So he ran out of actual, I don't know if he ran out, but almost ran out of actual barnwood. So he's like, crap, what do I do? This is my whole business. So he went to someone and said, if you build a fence, like if I build a fence for you, I'll charge you to build the fence. But every 5 years, I'll come back and I'll change out the 2x6
Interesting.
wood pieces for free.
Hmm.
And they're like, well, that means every 5 years I get a brand new fence. Yes. And there's no strings attached. Like, truly, that's what it is.
Hmm.
Well, now he takes those 2x6s, rips them in half, and every 5 years he's got new barnwood. You know, and it's not barnwood, but it's that rustic, old looking,
Yeah.
you know, and then he builds like barn doors for houses. And we're going through all that right now. We were just going to buy this just kind of cheaply priced barn door from Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. And our buddy is like, our friend, Kira and I's friend, you know, Brady.
Mhm.
He's like, no, you need barnwood. Like, you need it. So he's sold on it,
Mhm.
you know, and he's sold because our friend Paul does barnwood and everything. And so finally Kira was like, okay, well, let's do some barnwood. But then as soon as you do that, we're like, well, we have to tie the whole house into that barnwood door now.
Yeah.
So now what are we doing? We're buying more barnwood,
Mhm.
and it's going to be by the fireplace, and it's going above our shower now, and like, it's just all this stuff, and it's cool,
Yeah.
and it's just old wood.
Yeah.
Someone's making good money selling. Many people are making good money selling old wood.
Mm-hmm. Or or wood that looks old.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
say that back to the guy that ran out of wood or whatever. Maybe somebody loves to paint and they come up with a special varnish that makes it look like old barnwood, and that's your
Yeah.
specialty, is
Yeah.
painting it to look like old barnwood. And maybe you don't charge the premium that the legit barnwood is, but it's still,
Exactly.
you're able to go to Home Depot and get the cheaper pine. Well, it's cheap, isn't
Yeah.
cheap wood doesn't
Yeah.
exist
Cheap
anymore,
wood does not exist. right
but
now.
you know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah. And you do that, or
Yeah.
maybe you lay it out in your corral and let cows stomp on it a bunch or
Yeah.
something. You know, I mean, there's just so many ways to
For
get
sure.
creative.
And to me, the story is what's cool. So
Mm-hmm.
one, I don't care if the story is that there's red still on it from the barn, which is really
Mhm.
cool. Like that's painted. Or that guy took it out in his field and he let the cows stomp on it. And that's
Yeah.
why it looks old.
Yeah.
Like that's just cool.
Yeah.
And now I don't want to pay for barn wood if I know that it's stomped on and
Mhm.
but maybe actually there's a lot of time and value that gets put into having cows stomp on a board.
So I actually have some friends that do wood floors, very high quality wood floors.
Yeah.
And they were doing a floor, I think in Jackson or something, which is high end stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was these guys. I hope I'm not misspeaking, but I'm pretty sure that it was. But this story, somebody told me this story, so it actually happened probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, he brought in his draft horses after they had laid the floor down and let them stomp on the floor.
Wow.
And had like logging chains and stuff to beat it up
Interesting.
and
Yeah,
add
makes
character
sense.
to it. So
Yeah,
it's cool. Like,
My-
there's so many creative ways to do things.
it's cool. My father-in-law builds log homes or built log homes, and they've distressed wood before with chains and screws. Like you'll take a screw, you'll set it down, you hammer it in so it looks like it was set there, and
Yep.
that's what people wanted, so that's what he did.
And like these guys do, like looks like saw blades, like along
cool.
it, like you
Yeah.
can see where the saw marks, and like it's cool.
That is cool.
It's way cool to see.
It's probably what happened in Egypt, and when they were building all the big stuff, they're like, hey, make a mark right there so that we mess people up later on.
Yeah, that's right.
Later
Make
on,
it
we're
look
like,
distressed.
look, they had saws back then. Some guys up there were looking down like, "Oh, you're funny."
Yeah, I think there's so many ways that, and even I read a book when I was growing up that I really liked a lot that called it Winning in the Margins.
Yeah.
So just finding these little things that you can do on the side to get ahead. There was a story in there of a guy that worked at a gold smelter. Is that a word? I think like the people.
Yeah, I watched
where it,
Goldfinger. I watched
like where it. Yeah, that's
Austin
right.
Powers smelting accident.
But so he worked there, and he noticed that, like, I guess sometimes after it's really hot or whatever, it can kind of like spray up on this piece of machinery or whatever. And so he said, hey, can I stay after work? I won't charge you, but can I stay after work and just clean that off if I can keep it?
Yeah.
And they're like, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
So every day he would scrape it into like a coffee can or something. And within however much time, he had a coffee can full of gold.
Interesting.
And he would, and then you take that and melt it down into a gold bar or whatever, and it was
cool.
just winning in the margins. It was just a little creative thing, being alert and seeing that,
Well, as you were saying the $100 or someone said $100, I was just like, I should have been able to do it in my head, but I heard, $100 a day, that's $36,500 a year.
Yeah.
It's $100 a day. So if you have this little side hustle that's $100 a day, you're adding almost $37,000 to your yearly income.
Well, and even say you do it only a couple days on the weekend.
Yep.
I mean, that's $1,000 a month.
Yep.
Can add up to that pretty quick.
It's cool.
I've seen some people do like couch flipping, so they'll, like, one example that I thought, and there's different ways to add value. That's the cool thing, is even though somebody else might flip couches, there might be a way to do it that isn't being done. There's opportunity all around us. But one thing I thought about is, here we live in a college town, and I see a lot of stuff posted on Facebook down in Idaho Falls, and people are giving away a couch for free or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, up here you could probably sell that for $100 or something, because there's always people moving in and out and needing furniture and odds and ends and that kind of stuff. Well, a lot of people probably don't go down there and get it because they don't have a pickup.
Yeah.
So if you have a pickup and a
Yeah.
way to go down there and get it and bring it to another area where maybe there's a demand for that.
Yeah.
That's one way to add value.
Yes.
That
was actually-
and there's other stuff.
Value was going through my mind right there. Cause like, sometimes people might misconstrue it a little bit and be like, you just screwed that person because
Yeah.
you could have. No, they couldn't go down and get it. And they're willing to spend $100.
Yeah.
It might be different in some circumstances, but for the most part, like that's great.
Yes.
And that's how markets move. That's how the economy actually rolls.
Mhm.
So it's good.
I hate I hate how I see especially with real estate right now, because it's such a hot topic, but anything that comes up about somebody flipping a house or whatever,
Yep.
there is terrible comments
it's
about
crazy.
people flipping houses, like,
Yep.
oh, you're screwing people over and whatever. They're not stepping back and taking the time to look at what's really happening there. So
Yeah.
somebody's buying something that's in an old crappy condition.
Yeah.
They're adding value to it, and then they're putting it back on the market at whatever the market is, And so like, it kind of irritates me when I see people with that kind of mentality.
I'm right there with you. I mean, we just raised rents about $50 a month per, but
Yeah.
it's not because we wanted to. I want to keep that as low as possible for our tenants. Taxes and insurance went up. So, we try to have very good communication with the tenants, and we go, hey guys, I am really sorry. And like, this isn't anything outside what's in the contract. We've never raised rents.
Mhm.
We have to.
It's
Taxes
not,
and insurance went up.
it's not
It's not
going
a
in your
lose.
pocket.
Exactly.
You're not being greedy and collecting $50
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, it's going in the government's pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so weird and when we talk about these cash calf principles, they're pretty basic principles, I think, a lot
Yeah.
of times.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that don't ever think about this stuff, and
We're
so
just
it's
never
it's
taught
just
it.
yeah, that's the big that's the big
It's
problem.
basic, but it seems so out there and so scary to people. I mean, really, even just think having a job versus making your own job. Well, everyone's scared of it because we were never taught how to go make a job
Mhm.
or how to make a business or how to balance a checkbook. I mean, I truly was never taught that in school.
Yeah.
I was never taught, here's a balance sheet, go. And that might be specialized in business school or something, but I had to figure all that out on my own.
And that should be something taught in like grade school,
Yeah,
really.
totally agree. Little plug for a cool business out there. It's called Greenlight. You heard of that for kids?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we've been using that. It's awesome. When we pay like if they do their chores, then they get $10 a week or whatever. We have that set up to where half of that goes straight into savings.
Mhm.
10% of it goes into tithing, and then they can keep and spend the other portion. So there's a business idea. I mean, someone already did it, but you can innovate it and make it better.
Mhm.
But someone was like, man, I wish that there was a way that my kids could have a debit card. Okay, well, now there is.
And learn about money.
And learn about money at the same
Mhm.
time. They know if they make $100, they're only going to get $40 of that to spend. 50 of that goes into savings, which usually ends up in cryptocurrency.
Mhm.
And then 10% tithing and $40 they can spend.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that is
then
really cool.
we're teaching them to not feel bad about spending money either. It's okay. You earned all of that, but you're going to let 50% of it work for you.
Yeah.
We're going to give away 10% of it because we're
Yep.
very blessed. Spend 40, man. Go have
Yeah.
fun.
Well, and then they see the value of compounding too.
Yeah.
That savings amount continues to build and grow.
Yeah.
I mean, what a valuable thing to learn from a small age,
Yeah.
a young age like that.
It's cool. I'm glad there's people out there that make companies like that exist. And that's the thing. It probably started out some app or some idea and then was able to grow into something bigger. It started in someone's basement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
Probably
so.
Amazon did.
Yeah.
Walmart, it was
And Apple and Microsoft and
what was Walmart? So it's the Walton family, but it wasn't even close to Walmart. Like the name was something very different.
No, I think didn't he own he owned one store, right?
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah.
whatever, like a box store kind of thing. And then I don't know what it was called.
Yeah. I don't remember it, but it was something very different. And then he just made another one and then another and then decided if I'm buying stuff in such bulk, why don't I build Sam's Club?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just nuts.
Well, and you want to talk about market research and really being attentive to what's going on. I think he would even go into his competitor stores
Interesting.
regularly, right? And look at what products they were selling, what was actually selling to the customers, and then what the prices were so that he could undercut everybody's prices, which you might look at and say, you know, have some problem with that. But the guy, I mean, that's the other part of it is you have to know what stuff sells for, right? In
Yeah.
order to go out to the thrift store or whatever and
Yeah.
buy stuff that's not just going to be junk or whatever, you have to do your market research
Yeah.
to and become a specialist in some of those things. But
I know gas station managers in this area that drive around and look for gas prices.
yeah,
Because if you can undercut, quote, someone by 2 cents, it gets them in your store.
mhm.
You know?
Or even just be competitive. If you're
Yeah.
2 cents above, then you're host.
Yeah.
You know, you're having a hard time getting people there anyway.
Yeah. And then there's something about value that's created within that store. So I'm willing to wait in line at Great Scott's and pay a little bit more because in the camera they see me and they have my drink ready for me by the time I'm up there.
Really?
Like the service part, the customer service is so good. I'm willing to wait in line and pay a
Mhm.
little bit more.
Hmm.
Dude, they're awesome.
That's
like
crazy.
the first time it happened, I was like, that was awesome.
Do they do that for
Good job.
everybody else or just you?
Well, it's probably every. I mean, if I get
All the
same,
regular people.
yeah, I get the same thing every single day, maybe twice a day. Like I love it,
Mm-hmm.
and they just learned me. I'm sure they do other people too,
Mm-hmm.
and it's cool because they hooked me, they sold me. I'm loyal.
Yeah.
It was just so the first time it happened, I was like, well, that's cool, like, good for her. And then all of a sudden, it just started happening with almost every employee there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys, you rock. Like, this is cool. And then up on their wall, they have their records. And I don't remember what the daily one is, but I think that the weekly record was 5,000 something. That's $15,000 of soda
In a week.
in a week.
And that's at one station. Was that both of them combined, do you think? Or is that
I don't
one?
know. This one closer to us seems
Mhm.
to have a lot more people there. In fact, I will choose this one over the other one just because of the people in it. Not that the people in the other one are bad.
Mhm.
They're great. But oh, excuse me. Sorry, I'm drinking a C4. But these people remember me. So I'll go there.
Huh.
It's
That's
just cool.
awesome. Well, and back to so they're selling you
Yes.
back to one of our other, pillars or
Yeah.
bullet points of the cash cow philosophy. They're selling you, but you don't see it as a sell.
Oh, not
You
at all.
see it as good customer service. They're
Yeah.
providing value to you.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
And the kids that work there, they're not brought on as a salesman.
Yeah.
They're brought on as a soda maker.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you're like, dang, you're really good at sales. Why are you so good at this? Well, because you're good with people. Okay. You remembering names, one of the best ways that you can get ahead in life.
Mhm.
If you see someone from 5 years ago and you're like, hey, Dan, how do you remember my name? Just kind of a thing I have.
Yeah.
I just remember people's names. I don't. But
Yeah.
just that kind of stuff is great. We try to do that with our front desk staff. Like, if you can remember someone's name, do it.
Mhm.
If someone new comes in to CrossFit, I'll write their name up on the board. They won't know it, but I'll write Tina up on the board, and then I just try to say their name. Hey, Tina, good job. Oh crap, what's her name? I gotta run to the board. Oh yeah, it's Tina.
Mhm.
Hey Tina, good job on that.
And then after a day or two, you've got
Yeah,
it.
you remember it.
Yep.
And
Well,
then they appreciate it.
And I'm thinking too about, so back to the soda example, think about how much better those employees, the people that are making the soda for you. So you get up to the line, they've already got a soda for you, and you're like I imagine it's like, you guys are freaking awesome. Like,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Like,
Yeah.
this is great. Here you go. Here's my money.
You're
It's
out.
fulfilling for them too. Like, they're having a better day at it
Yeah.
than being like, oh, son of a
Yeah,
in here buying. So,
for sure.
like I can just, like, even you telling that, I haven't been in there for a while, but I can just envision that it's probably a cool place and a good business because there's synergy there. You've talked about that a lot.
Well,
They're providing value, you're appreciating the value, and
where I thought you were going to go with that too, which ties in, is the efficiency with it.
yeah.
So instead of them saying, "Hey, sir, how are you? What would you like to drink today?" And I'm looking at the menu and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. What do you like?" Instead, they know that 99% of the time I get the same drink. I'm in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting in line, and then it takes me 20 seconds to
Mm-hmm.
get through. So all of a sudden, their efficiency just went up. And I'm already a sold customer, so I'm going to come back.
Well, and then think about putting the record on the wall.
So
Whoever the manager is that came up with that. So then it's like, hey, look at the record on the wall. You guys want to be as efficient as you possibly can so you can beat that record. And they probably don't even say that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
But just having that number there, like we're all competitive. And so we're sitting there making drinks, like those people are going to work as efficiently as they can just to try to beat the number. Like it's great. Like there's so many good things about that in creating a successful business.
Yeah.
So
one cool thing about that business is that it was purchased. So I think it, as far as I know, as long as I've lived here, it's just changed hands once.
Yeah.
But it was kind of an older gentleman that I think he started it, and it just kind of ran how it ran, like gas stations would. And then when the new people bought it and moved in, they're like, "Hey, we're going to have soda, we're going to have ice cream, we're going to do handmade waffle presses, all that." I mean, it really took off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because gas stations, as far as gas, they don't make money. It's the stuff on the inside. So then they took an already existing idea and made it a lot better.
Yeah.
Soda, cookies, ice cream, all the stuff that I probably shouldn't eat. Actually, I just, so everyone knows, I actually only get Diet Mountain Dew with sugar-free peach and mango. Okay. It's called a Diet Second Wife. They changed the name because someone got offended. Now it's an Over Yonder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Come on, folks.
I know.
Lighten up a little bit.
I still call it that just so that they know how long I've been going.
You've been a loyal customer for years.
Can I get the 44-ounce Diet Second Wife with sugar-free flavors, please? The Second Wife. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're new here. It's an Over Yonder now.
That's awesome. Good. That's great. Like it's way cool. Way cool to see those kind of businesses.
I love seeing, that's the thing. I love seeing businesses grow and thrive. There are some people in business that don't. They're very competitive and they don't like it. One thing I enjoy about you and me and Kira and your wife and, all of that is we just want to see people succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And if people understand that we live in a world of abundance, we live on a very abundant earth, we don't all need to compete.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there and we can innovate just a little bit here and a little bit there. It's cool.
Yeah. There's unlimited opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the amount of technology we have. I mean, you look at eBay, you look at Facebook Marketplace, you look at one cool thing that I thought about as far as like businesses and stuff is old pickups.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to me how what old pickups are worth now. And even diesel pickups. I've heard some guys say that that's one of their kind of side hustles is they'll buy and sell diesel pickups as their niche, so they'll buy something, drive it for, a month or whatever, sell it and be able to make, sometimes they're making like $4 or $5 grand on them.
Well, inflation right now they should be.
Yeah. But like old pickups, like old square body Chevys and stuff. I actually have some, I had when we were growing up on the farm, we had a bunch of those kind of pickups, whatever. My first pickup that I drove to school was like an old square body farm truck Chevy, so like I want to get one, but there's Facebook groups that are specifically for that. And so, like it's cool to see what people have and whatever. Some things are like, some people's niches on there is they buy something, they repaint it, they totally redo it, they, make it look really nice and new, and that's their niche. There's a certain value and amount that's worth.
Yeah.
Other people, it's like cleaning it up so there's still patina on there from the paint that's fading.
Yeah.
That's the original olive green color
So
from back in the day,
Yep.
you know, and that's their niche,
Yeah.
you know. Or some guys, it's finding an old maybe something that's not drivable from the neighbor's junkyard, and you know they're going to sell that to somebody that's going to take it and fix it up as a project, you know. So even though everybody's in the old pickup kind of industry, I guess, or market, there's different levels that people are involved, you know. And I mean, you think about that, there's so much value that can be created. So say one guy pulls it out of the junkyard and sees, you know, there's minimal rust on this, there's pretty good body on it, whatever, all the windows are intact. Okay, he sells it to a guy that fixes it up and has the patina, you know, stuff on it or whatever. Or maybe he just gets it running. Maybe he just throws a new motor in it and gets it running. Well, then he sells it. So there's profit there,
Yeah.
you know. And then the next guy sees that and is like, oh, I could put a new paint job on that and maybe, you know, put a new floor in it where it's rusted out, and that thing would be great. So then there's value there. So we think so one dimensionally that like, oh, this pickup, there's only one transaction there. There could be so many different transactions depending on what you're excited about, what your hobbies are, and what your niche is.
Yeah.
That you can really specialize in some of this stuff.
So cool. And that's very specialized.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing, is old diesel pickups, extremely specialized, but that's where money is made. This made me thought, I have not thought about this in years. When Kira and I were first married, her dad he's an inventor. He's a dreamer, kind of visionary. And not visionary, that makes him sound like but he's a dreamer. And he's so good at putting things together. So he had this product. Okay, well, here, just going on business ideas. He had, it was called an underwater island. Essentially, you took a plastic bubble, half bubble, and you pushed it underneath
like a dome or something.
Like a dome. Yeah. In fact, I think they had one called the Dome.
Okay.
Pushed it down, and then he just diverted some air from the pump, and it pumps into the dome, pushes the water out, and now underwater you can have crabs and newts and
like in
turtles,
a home aquarium or something.
In a home aquarium, you can have frogs and newts and turtles and salamanders and all that, and crabs. Like, I think his first website was called crabhomes.com.
Oh, really?
Which, I mean, with, you know, crabs, it's just kind of funny. But crabhomes.com, and now it's Atlantis Underwater Islands. So there's that. But in all of this, he orders a whole bunch of little plastic palm trees from China. Then he decides he has too many palm trees or whatever. I end up getting like 100 of them. I'm like, I wonder if I could sell those on eBay. So I get on and start selling little plastic palm trees on eBay. And I noticed that most people that were buying them for cakes, like making cakes.
Yeah, sure.
So someone hops online and they go, plastic palm tree for cakes. And it never popped up. So they'd go to eBay and they'd buy the ones that I had. Well, then I switched the name to plastic palm trees for cakes, and it got a ton of orders. I went through those.
In the Google search now, your listing is popping up or whatever, right?
But what a weird roundabout for me to make money. It was that someone ordered plastic palm trees from China so that they could put them in an invention, and ordered too many, so then it hops to me, and then I sell them on eBay, which goes to people with cakes.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
You should have
I could
source that and
palmtreecakes.com
and bought 1 million palm trees from China at a penny a piece, and then sell them for maybe so.
Well, now that's the crazy thing is I did sell them for like, you know, $3.99, $4.99, which to them they were like, sweet, $4, and then I get the palm tree for my tree or for my cake that I can use over and over again.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I just made $4, and I think I even charged shipping on it. So it was like $1 shipping or whatever. You put them in a little padded sleeve and
off they go.
I should have my kids do that again.
So that's interesting too, because you think about, we also think very close to us, I think too. Like you think about starting a new business, maybe it's the palm trees, and it's like, well, I don't know anybody that's going to want palm trees.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter now. You know, we have technology where you can access everybody in the world. It's cool.
Yeah. Grant Cardone, in a book sell or be sold. I don't actually remember this chapter, but I was going through the table of contents the other day, and he has something about selling ice to Eskimos. And it used to be the thing like, well, you can't sell ice to Eskimos. Well, in today's world, I think you can,
Yeah.
because there's probably an Eskimo that's moved and he needs some ice. Like, it's just a different world than it was.
Or what if it's flavored ice?
Yes,
or,
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
one thing that I did when you were talking about that with the palm trees was when I was in college, I worked at an outdoor store and in the fishing department. I like to fish.
Yeah.
And I don't fish nearly as much as I used to or want to, but that was when I was in college, I fished a lot, and especially fly fishing. And so one thing that would happen is, we would get in a bunch of product, and especially the niche that I kind of found out after a while worked really well was fly reels, fly fishing reels. And so, there's high-end fly fishing reels that can cost, well, thousands of dollars, but at this store, it was like maybe $300 or $400.
Yeah.
Well, you could take those apart, and the part that had the line on it is called a spool. So you could actually like change out those spools depending on what kind of fly line you wanted.
Okay.
Well, when they would discontinue a reel, a lot of times the store would still have a bunch of spare spools for that reel, but it's discontinued. So none of their customers are going to come in and buy them,
Yeah.
really. So they would like mark them 50% off and set them out on the sell table. Well, I'd go and buy those because it was like almost impossible that somebody in Idaho Falls was wanting a spool for a reel that was discontinued 3 years ago, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I started selling them on eBay for actually more than what the retail prices were because nobody could find them anymore. They were discontinued.
And they wanted,
they needed it. Yeah, they had an old reel that was like discontinued, so it's impossible to find spools now. And so, it's just interesting the ways that you can find it. And that was just an accident, just kind of came upon it accidentally. But there's so many things like that I think that, and that probably, you could do that. You could say you go to Cabela's or Sportsman's Warehouse or any of those once a week and look over their trash bit, their sale tables or whatever.
Yeah.
And sell stuff. It's just so crazy that you can do that.
It is crazy. Ross, that the clothing store Ross.
Yeah.
They have pretty specialized weightlifting shoes every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's your $200 shoes that they're selling for $30. You're like, why does Ross have these? Well, what I've heard happens, I don't know whether this is correct or not. There'll be a shoe buyer that's like at like some big place,
Mm-hmm.
Nordstrom's or whatever. And they're like, oh, sweet, there's this cool shoe from Adidas, Nike, whatever. Well, they order it in. Nobody ever buys it because it's in such a specialty store that they're like,
so they didn't know it was a weightlifting shoe necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then it goes to Ross for $30. You can go buy those, get them online. When someone knows what shoe they like, especially in weightlifting, they're all for that shoe.
Yeah.
So you hop on eBay and sell it for $149. Well, it's a $200 shoe. It's going to sell immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And you just,
that's awesome.
You just made $110.
Yeah.
And it helped Nordstrom because Ross bought their extra, and it helped Ross because you bought it from them, and it helps the person that you sold it to.
Yeah. They got it for $50 less.
Yep, exactly. This is all free market, right?
I saw one where a guy went into Ross and this was just on a reel and on Facebook or whatever. And at the beginning, he says, this is how my company did $1.5 million in sales last year. Supposedly, who knows, but he goes in and he says, I go to Ross and I scan every item in the store. So I don't know if that's like every item, because that seems like that take a long time, but he had like a toy. It was a John Deere tractor toy or something like that he found in there. It's new. It's still in the box. So he takes out his phone, and I've never done this. I don't know exactly how it works, but if you're an Amazon seller, I think it brings up like a camera and you can scan the barcode and it brings it up and says what it's selling for on Amazon. So he like scans this toy, and I think it was listed for $30 or something. He scans it and it comes up as 140, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, cool. Right then, so there's a button there that says list for sale. So click list that for sale. So now it's on his website for sale already. He hasn't
Yeah.
even purchased it from Ross yet,
Hmm.
but he goes walking up, buys it, and now it's listed on Amazon.
So interesting.
And it's $100, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said before, do that one time a day,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, or on a Saturday morning, you go and you do 4 or 5 of them.
yeah,
$400 or $500
yep,
a week.
or even $50.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, we can talk in hundreds, or you talk in dozens. Do that on do that 3 times on a Saturday, and that pays for three meals that you normally would have had to pay for. And
or it's gas money for the week.
exactly. Well,
Maybe not now.
maybe not. Yeah. But like you said, within the margins, winning within the margins. Is that what it was
I
called?
think, yeah, winning in the margins.
Winning in the margins.
Mhm.
It's cool because those little, and you're so wise. You talked about the 1%, getting 1% better every single day, winning within the margins, winning in the margins. That 1% is huge. You take, okay, well, let's say you make 50,000 a year, and then you're making an extra $500 a month. Well, $500, that's 1%, right? So then you take that 500 and you go purchase more product with it.
Mhm.
It turns into 1,000. Well, there's 2%. Well, now you can start to move it around. It can grow fast.
Yeah.
The whole compound interest thing, you don't really see it until year 30 or whatever. You can compound yourself right now.
Mhm.
You can go compound $25 every single Saturday. You can turn it from 25 into 50, into 100, into 2. But what happens is at some point we're like, hey, we're making money.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I was kind of passionate about Barnwood, but now
Yes.
I'm making money at it. It's cool.
And then take that extra money, put it into Bitcoin or something
Yes.
that you don't even look at.
Yep.
Or like you said, buy more product to sell or whatever, but set that money aside and say, okay, this is extra money that we are not touching. We're investing it or whatever. That can grow pretty fast.
Yeah.
Well, and even thinking like your example here, where you're $50,000, and then what did we say? $500 is
And 1%.
1%.
Yeah.
So say you did that, say you just did the 1% for 12 months.
Yeah.
That's 12. So at the end of the year, that's $6,000.
Yeah.
So that's a 12% raise on your $50,000.
It's huge.
What would it take at your job to get a 10% raise?
Yes. Yeah. Very good point.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, where's your time better spent if you can find a system like that to do,
And you can find a system like that. That's the
yeah.
thing. Now, there might be some argument. Well, what if everybody did that? Good.
Everybody can.
Everybody can. And what a world when everyone's passionate about what they're doing. And we've talked passion before.
Yeah.
There are garbage people, garbage men that are so passionate about their job. And as soon as you go listen to how passionate they are, you're like, oh crap, maybe I want to be a garbage man too. Like, it's cool.
So I had a friend that was his job. He was a garbage man and he loved it. He actually ended up getting injured and couldn't do that job anymore. But the part that he loved about it was finding cool stuff. And so he would find incredible stuff. He found there was an estate sale and he showed me all this stuff. Like he took me and he's like, dude, check out, like this was years and years and years and years of accumulated stuff. Somebody had thrown out, he came up to the garbage can and there was this whole big box of photographs, black and white photographs. Well, he gets looking through them and they were World War I photographs, originals. Wow. And so he's like, okay, this is incredible, but I got to go talk to this lady to make sure that she knows what she threw out.
Yeah.
So he goes in and there was some other stuff too. Like there was actually some like deer mounts and stuff that were incredible horns, and, that were like mounted and stuff. And so he's like, okay, I got to go talk to this lady. Well, he went in there and she's like, well, my husband's dead. She was an older lady. My husband's dead. I'm moving out to like a retirement home or something. I don't have any kids or my family doesn't want any of this stuff. And, I've tried to give it away and nobody wants it. And so I had to get rid of it. So I threw it in the garbage. And he's like, well, is it okay if I have it? And she's like, yeah, that would be great. Like, I would love somebody to appreciate this stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like, we're flipping through these photographs and they're incredible. Like there was thousands of them. There was a whole box, like a potato box full. And I mean, I'm sure those things were valuable,
Oh, absolutely. Like,
like,
I just think right now, if I hopped online, it was like, original World War I photograph. I don't even care if I know who's in it. I'll pay 30 or $40 for it.
yeah. And that's exactly what these were. Like these were front battle line, like crazy stuff. And
Okay, then maybe
and
more than 30 or 40.
yeah. And so anyway, and he had stories like that of all sorts of stuff, like Dutch ovens. Like some people threw out some Dutch ovens and he cleaned them up, sold them on eBay. But like so even though say you're a garbage man and you there's ways to win in the margins
So cool.
that you can, like, I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioned Dutch ovens.
Yeah.
So we started cooking in cast iron.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And everybody needs to cook in cast iron. It's so much better and it's good for you. It's better for you. Like sometimes, not to get off on a little health kick here, since I drink soda every single day. But the nonstick can be pretty bad for you.
It's like Teflon coating or something like that.
So you cook in cast iron, it cooks evenly. It tastes so good. Every time that you go from one food to another, it's actually baking some seasoning into the metal somehow.
Yeah.
But I get looking, there's this huge niche market of finding old Dutch ovens or just cast iron in general and restoring it. And so then I hopped on eBay and I'm like, well, this is interesting. I just want to look into it. And I would look one up, made in 1920 something. And if you restore it, then you make 10 or $15 on restoring it.
Mm-hmm.
So probably nothing that I'd get into. But now all of a sudden I want to be a Dutch oven collector.
Yeah.
It's just cool. It's like that was made in the 20s and I'm cooking with it today.
Yeah.
Just way cool.
And then, the quality is so much better.
Oh, so much better. Yeah. Yeah. And actually I should buy an old one just because of that. It's going to cook more evenly. It's not going to be as porous. Mm-hmm. And there's just so much about it. It's just cool.
There's so much stuff. Like whatever somebody is passionate about, you can do that. Oh, so here's one that is interesting. So this is my wife's uncle. He's an attorney. He might be retired now, but he lives up in Montana, and his passion is national park memorabilia. So which I know, like, it's like, what are you thinking about, And we went up there this last, and like, I knew this, and he actually was really, we don't see him that often, like maybe once every couple of years or whatever. And pretty much every time I've gone up, he actually had found old Idaho potato memorabilia. Like, there's like the Idaho potato thing that they advertise with, mm-hmm. and it's like looks like a person has hands and feet and whatever, So he had found like some pictures and actually memorabilia from like the 1930s or 40s or 50s or whatever. And he'd just give it to me. He's like, oh, hey, I knew I know that you grow Idaho potatoes. So here's this. I thought you'd think it's cool. So like really nice.
Yeah.
So I knew he did it. And I kind of looked through some of his collection, but this last summer we went up to there. One of his daughters was getting married, and as we were having dinner, I was sitting across from him, and so we got talking about this stuff. I was like, "Well, tell me, are you still doing this memorabilia thing, or what is it?" I thought he was just a collector, which he is, but he actually goes around in their shows.
Interesting.
Where they set up a booth and everything, and it's like paper. He had a specific term for it, like a paper collector or something. So there's like people collect maybe old magazines or old national park posters or something like that. But that was his niche. It was United States national park memorabilia, and I think he's retired now, and that's what he does. And he was actually like the largest national park memorabilia collector vendor in the nation, I think, or something like that.
That's cool. It does. I mean, it doesn't sound hard to get there, as far as like if you make it niche enough, it's not going to be hard. But it probably was, because there's probably dozens of people out there or more that are collecting that same thing, and that's why there's a market.
Well, and we laugh about it, but like
Yeah.
he has like these original like
That's
postcards
cool.
and things, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like you think about, we take stuff for granted now because you can print everything off on a create images and stuff on a computer, and it's no big deal. But this stuff's like from the 1930s and 40s, and it's a bear and a camper and like
Yeah.
just cool stuff, like really neat, like posters you'd hang up on the wall, kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It's cool.
That is. Yeah, and when I laugh, it's not at what he does. It's at the sheer niche of it.
Yeah,
So weird.
like incredible to think that that is a thing out there, but it is.
Yeah. I actually think a theme that we've kind of found while we've been talking is collector's items.
Yeah.
Collector's coins, national park memorabilia. A lot of it is collector. I mean, even Barnwood, that is a collector's item.
Mm-hmm.
It's old. It has a story.
Yeah.
So what can we turn into a collector's item as well? I don't know, but I think it's everything. It'd be cool to own like one of the first cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we have cameras that are way better now, it'd be cool to own one.
Yeah.
I love coins, art. I would love to get into, one art, like old art, but then also old
Yeah.
sculptures.
Mhm.
And then there's some tax benefits to it as well. You can write them off. You can donate them to museums. You still own them, but they're donated to a museum. I mean, there's just ways. There's just so
And
many
it's
ways.
cool too because there's passion around that.
Yeah.
If it's something you're into, and it doesn't have to be collector's items necessarily. It could be Hot Wheels cars, which there's collectors ones there too.
It's crazy.
But there's some passion around that, and so you get fulfillment because you're into what you're trading or investing or buying and selling or whatever, but you're also making some profit off of it and adding value.
Yeah, you're making people happy.
Mm-hmm. I know a guy that has World War II stuff, like war memorabilia.
Oh yeah.
And he's always had like an ad in the paper. I think he still does to this day. That's like, hey, any war memorabilia stuff, like give me a call, buy it from you, whatever. And what you think, how do you ever find that stuff to buy? Like, how does that, which kind of back to our thing where you just start and then it searches you out, and as you focus, it expands and stuff. But he said all the time he'll have like people call him up and be like, hey, I inherited this old Luger from my grandpa and I don't know what to do with it or whatever, and he said like some of them he'll show up and they're like extremely rare, precious ones, and like one, I think he said had like a case with a buttstock that you would take out and put in, anyway. And he's like, I've been collecting this stuff forever and never seen anything like that, whatever, and the guy's like, yeah, give me a couple $100, he's like, okay, sounds good. We'll come to find out it was worth like a couple $1,000. And I mean, that rightfully so. How does he, how do you know? And
exactly.
And so
what that person wanted to sell it at, and I don't know, there's some sort of ethical line there. If it's worth 30,000 and he wants to sell it for $200, and it's like, okay, just want to let you know it's worth more than that.
Yeah.
But other than like some out there ethical line, ethical's not, it shouldn't, you know what I'm saying?
Well, and it's the hard thing too, is like, you're the expert, and so you should get compensated for that to an extent.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think most people too would probably, if they knew what the value of something was, like, where it's like, well, I've never seen this before, I'll take a chance on it for $100, whatever, But I think most people, if they know what it is, and it's like, well, I know that these Lugers are going for $2,000, I'll give you $1,500 or whatever, or $1,000 or,
He's like, my grandpa off the Nazi and stole his gun.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was.
It probably was.
Yeah.
And he said that's the, because you think, well, how do you get World War II German Nazi memorabilia here when it was fought clear over there? And he's like, it's incredible the amount of stuff that people brought back.
Yeah.
And so
it probably wasn't illegal then. I mean, now you get court-martialed and you get put in prison if you bring stuff back. But I don't think back then, I'm pretty sure my grandpa had stuff from Korea.
Yeah.
So, and he never did anything illegal in his whole,
yeah, it's just so cool that And we've talked a lot about antiques and collector's items and stuff, but it doesn't have to be that.
No,
So
no, it can be anything. Well, those Pokemon cards in the beginning, to
Mm.
me, that's not a collector's item at all. I guess to him it is though, because he's like, oh, this one's so old, and they only made, so many of these, and
Yeah. But he's there again, he's become the expert in that to an
yeah,
extent.
yeah,
He knows he's looking up what they are on eBay or
Yeah.
whatever, to know what the values are. And
it is interesting. And like you said, that internet, you become the expert, and it's not that hard. We have more information and stuff now than we've ever had, and it's easy to become what used to be an expert. I mean,
Yeah.
it still is, but you hop on and you're like, you research something for 7-8 hours, you probably are in the top 5% that knows about that item.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially the quality of, like, you can find niche YouTube videos
Yes.
on that. And so you're getting that information from an expert anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it can really accelerate the amount of learning and stuff.
I always thought it was funny in the the one in Las Vegas where the pawn shop, Pawn Stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'd bring in these experts, and this is a little off topic, but did you know Chris, I don't know if you can say names on podcast, but Chris Henderson, did you ever know him? I think he might have left before you came. His dad builds gliders or ultralights. I can't remember which one.
Okay.
The show contacted him and said, hey, we want to have a glider on the show. Will you be our expert? And he's like, sure, sounds great. So he had an old glider and like a newer glider. And they pretended that they brought in the old glider.
No.
Yeah. A lot of that show, I guess, is just pretend. So they pretended to bring in the glider. Then they brought in the expert. He said, oh, yeah, it's a good deal. If you take it, we can restore it. And then this other one that wasn't even the same glider, they sold for so much of a profit.
Uh-huh.
And
so it was his glider and he was the
glider,
expert.
And he was the expert. It was his two gliders.
Oh,
the one that needed refinished.
His
different
price, one than the one they sold.
A different one than the one that they sold. And they paid him. And it's just like we live in a weird fake world. But that's very off topic. Well, kind of. I guess it is on topic. You can hire people to be their own experts and sell that video to a TV network.
Yeah, and it's their niche.
Yeah, it is very niche. Have you ever actually been down there?
I haven't gone to it. I like watching it.
Oh, yeah.
But
it's so interesting.
Yeah.
You go in and you're like, this is not the same place. It's tiny. And the only like actual collectors stuff that they have, the real cool stuff, is in probably like as big as this room. Everything else is just normal pawn shop crap. But
that's crazy.
There's that one little part of the store, and then any of their big purchases, they're like, okay, we're going to schedule this for next Tuesday at 9.
Okay.
And you come back.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
This is off topic too. Well, maybe, I don't know, but we're looking at buying a property, and there's a house on this property. And so we were over doing a walkthrough on this house, and in the garage, there was still some stuff, they'd kind of cleaned it out, and I think it was probably an estate or something, but there's still some stuff. You could tell it was an older couple that lived in there or whatever. So I'm like, oh, there's some cool stuff there. There's like an old 7-Up cooler, like a metal one, and I'm like, oh man, I'll bet you that's worth some money. And the realtor and the other people that were with me were like, nah, like, come on, whatever. Well, we open up this cover and there's an old metal, I think it was a P-40, like a model P-40 airplane.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, and we didn't look at it too close, but you could tell it had like been drug out from under the house, or whatever. The box was all tattered, but the actual stuff inside was in good shape. And, so it's probably sat there for 50 years or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, I'll bet you that's worth whatever, I was like, I'll bet you that's worth hundreds of dollars. Like, no way. So I looked it up on eBay, and there was one on eBay for $550.
Wow.
And then the 7-Up thing, there was some other stuff too, but the 7-Up cooler it wasn't in as good as condition as the one on eBay, but it was, it's $100 or something like that. And so it's like, I mean, same thing. Like, say you have the niche of 7-Up, antique
Yep.
7-Up coolers, and everybody thinks it's junk, but you're like, I know what that's worth. I know that that's $100. And so they're selling it at a garage sale for $5 or whatever. Like, it's just education. It's
Yeah.
all that it is.
Well, that made me think of two things. One of our commercial space renters, he restores old refrigerators and vending machines. So old ones. So he'll, put feelers out there. He goes and gets it. One, it has old soda in it, old coins in it.
The old coins. I've wanted to do that
yeah.
so bad.
So cool. So old soda, old coins, and then he takes it and he'll either just sell it kind of as is, or he'll turn it into a gun safe, which I don't think is as cool, because it'd be cool to have one that's, for at least
that
me,
works.
that works. But some are irreparable, so he turns them into gun safes or whatever, and he does pretty well on it.
That's way cool.
Two,
is the old soda worth money?
Yeah,
like that kind of
just
stuff,
like
collector's
unopened
items stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know how
That's
much or
cool.
anything like that, but unopened, that sort of thing. Then the other one, my dad, he went, and I don't remember how much he paid, but he essentially went to someone, old barn wood. He didn't do anything with the wood, but he said, hey, there's just a bunch of farm equipment and stuff in there. If I pay you this much, can I just have everything that's in it? Which I think you had mentioned something similar to that earlier. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. He got a tractor out of it. He had to just do a few things, and then the tractor ran, and I think he came out of it pretty good. And those people are looking at it, and they're like, well, man, we just got everything cleaned up. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Yep. My dad's excited because he just got a tractor.
That's
and
cool.
then they was cool to walk through there, just those old buildings. There was like a fireplace. There was just that old, big, probably came across on a, not like a wagon, but back when it was railways, and St. Anthony was the hub.
Yeah.
Probably came in on one of those.
Yeah.
It's just cool.
Yeah.
And then there's probably someone out there that's looking for antique wood fireplaces. There's antique tractors.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is.
It's just nuts.
I guarantee you there is. For sure.
So crazy.
It is cool. We had the tractor thing. We had a tractor growing up that burnt down. There was like an electrical short or something. It was an old Massey Ferguson.
Yeah.
And just burnt completely up. Looked like a big pile of junk to us. And so we pulled it over in a corner, and it sat there for years, like probably 10, well, I don't know, longer than that, probably 20 years. And we had a neighbor that he was a high school teacher, but in the spare time, he liked to fix up cars and tractors and stuff.
Yeah.
And he came in, and he's like, I saw that tractor. I actually owned one of those when I was first farming a little bit. And would you mind if I took that and fixed it up? And we're like, it's a big old black pile of ash, is all it looks like. And he's like, I think the motor's still okay, and he's like, I think I'll be able to do it. And we're like, whatever, you can have it.
Yeah.
He took it and completely restored it. He looked up what
cool.
the shade of paint was on it for those years, because Massey Ferguson over time, changed their red shades of paint, and it looks new. Like it really, looks new. And so, I mean, right there, like we would have hauled that off to the junkyard, and somebody was able to take that and add value to it, and now it's probably worth thousands of. Well, I know it's worth thousands of dollars. It's cool.
Well, and that just goes to show also like the quality that used to exist, like you had said with the Dutch ovens, cast iron. I don't know if you could or do that to a car nowadays. We had that little trainer airplane, strip the paint completely off of it, and once we got it off, there was this little kind of a faded line that goes through it, so everything is shiny except for this line. And there's a guy at the airport, he's like, let me call Cessna and let me get the original colors that were on that, like the original paint job. I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. So he calls them, he gets this paper shipped to us that was essentially everything that was original with that plane, like that specific one, what the weight and balance was, what the paint was, how much the paint weighed. I mean, all of it, just crazy. And they used to care about that kind of stuff.
That's
cool. So now you turn that airplane back original, and it's a collector's item.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Well, and there, I mean, perfect example of taking something that's been a little bit neglected,
Yeah.
and adding value to it. I mean,
Yeah.
you added a ton of value to that thing now, I'm sure.
It's just interesting. I mean, it sat there for years. I actually think I have, a few of those stories that are confirmable, that I've written something down and then it's kind of, come into our
Yeah.
lives later.
Yeah.
This one's definitely not confirmable, but I'm pretty sure it's the same plane that I would drive to the dump and I'd go, I would love that plane.
Huh.
It was just old, crappy. In the winter, it was the weight, like the snow would get on the back and it would weigh it down and the nose wheel would be in the air and you're like, oh, that poor little airplane.
Yeah.
And then later on, I'm pretty sure it's the same one. But you can do something like that. You can go to the airport, not big international airports, but there's little
Yeah.
local ones, and just find the crappiest airplane that's out there, and then you look up the tail number, see who owns it, call them up. Hey, would you be interested in selling that airplane? You could probably flip most airplanes today and make money. You don't need to
Yeah.
be a pilot to flip an airplane.
Can you get
We could
inspections
do this
done and
for
stuff?
hours.
I know.
Yeah.
I know there's so many
Yeah.
ideas. Can you get inspections so you
Yeah.
know that it's good structurally and that kind of stuff? You have
Yep.
somebody come out and look at it.
Yeah.
Huh,
There's
that's
a
cool.
lot to do with that actually, because I was flying one plane once and a door kind of popped open, and so we it ripped the door almost completely off. And then when we started to look at how much it was going to cost to repair the door, we're like, we might have to total this airplane. But then when
Interesting.
you look at totaling the airplane, it actually came out pretty good when you total it, because you take the parts. So there's
Yeah,
actually a
that's
huge
true.
market
Yeah.
in buying an airplane that still might be flyable, parting it out and selling it. Or you go to the airport, you find that old plane, and maybe you're not a pilot, maybe you know nothing about airplanes. Well, you take that plane that you bought and you put it to a salvage, like an airplane salvage yard,
Mhm.
or something along those lines. They'll come get it, just with an airplane. Like,
Or
so-
you can part it out and sell the parts
Yep.
individually, I would
Yes,
think, right?
exactly.
You can take
Yep.
the seats out and
Yep.
post them somewhere. I'm sure there's a
Mhm.
website that does that. and
Yep. Oh
Probably
yeah.
eBay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then if you can tie those parts to the logbooks, and you can say, hey, this part was replaced this and this
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
Airplanes are actually really interesting as far as you can go back if it's been well logged, which hopefully if you're going to fly the airplane, you want an airplane that's been very well logged. They log everything. So I had him fix just something really small the other day. He hands me the bill and he hands me a logbook paper, and going through the logbook paper, and it's like he kind of turned a 90-degree, it was a little cable,
Mhm.
and then he turned it 90 degrees, but it's like a written half page on what he did. It's like every little
Holy
thing
cow.
that's ever done to that plane is marked.
Huh.
So
So you have a complete history of everything.
100% history of it. I mean, there's
Hmm.
probably little things here and there, but I mean, even down to the oil changes.
Well, I'm
It's
sure,
really cool.
like back to your one that you're saying that you were considering,
Salvaging.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can sell the motor, right? You
Oh,
can
yeah.
sell the,
Yep.
like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I never
w-
even thought about that.
What we ended up doing was just trading it for something different.
Mhm.
We wanted a 4-seater and it was a 2-seater, and worked out for him. Like the guy that wanted to do it, he wanted something to train out of. It was a really good trainer. We just added value,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's all value transactions,
That's cool.
all of it.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And then starting to just break all of that down. You've got the mechanic, you've got the guy who told us about the paint job, you've got the people that you have to buy the paint stripper from.
Yes.
Like, whoever thought, like,
The
I'm going to build a,
inspector,
yep.
Yes.
I'm going to build a business on stripping paint from an airplane. It's actually all these scars right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
From
yeah,
a wire wheel or something.
paint stripper.
Oh,
It
geez,
got on my skin
really?
and like instantly bubbled up. I was
Holy
like,
cow.
oh crap. So then I go like this, and that one, like I went like this, and it moved across my arm.
Huh.
Just watch it bubble up.
And
Anyways,
then eat
we're
a hole,
way
and then eat a hole in your shirt.
no, it wouldn't do anything to clothes, but it would to
That's
your
weird.
skin.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, we're way off.
So
subject.
maybe
I'm sorry.
we'll know a business around making gloves
Yeah.
to put on while you're using paint stripper to take paint off of airplanes. Like,
Yeah.
it's so endless. When people say that they don't have a good idea.
Yeah.
Hogwash.
I agree with you. Yep.
We just
Absolute
gave,
hogwash.
we might have done more than our 10.
You said 10?
Well,
Oh,
I
that was
said,
way more than
I was going
10.
to say our goal was 10. We've gone
over on our usual time, but that was
Yeah,
fun.
it
We need
was.
to do it again.
I agree. That
So-
and that kind of episode. I mean, really, I wrote some stuff down for us
mhm.
and so number of belay lessons taught. I actually think that'd be really cool. Have a big, for the rock climbing gym, and you and I should go buy a barn.
Buy a barn for sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks for this. We'll release them and then we'll see you next week.
Sounds great. See ya.